Who's the ultimate authority in Canada? Like President Bush is to America. Who is it? Prime Minister? Huh? Prime Minister Paul Hold on, just a minute.
But just on paper,
okay.
The Governor General.
Okay. Can you imagine? Maybe I shouldn't use this as an example, but can you imagine that Prime Minister, the head or close to the head of this country, doing some breakdancing? Can you imagine that? That's the question.
Why not?
No, he's capable of doing it. He's physically capable of doing it, right? How old is he? 50? But can you imagine him? Can you envision him standing in front of the people in the stadium, 200,000 people, they give him a nice platform, you know, can you imagine him doing that? Why not? Why can't you imagine him doing that? Huh? Why not? Huh? No, it's because that's not befitting his office. He has the capability of doing it, but that's not befitting the office of the Prime Minister to lower himself to that standard. The Lord of the worlds doesn't lower himself.
But is that lowering though? Is it doing something for humans? Bringing them on their sins, is that really lowering? Because you said it's belittling them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, by God creating the Holy Spirit to come into our lives, to come into us, to give us revelation or whatever the case may be, is that really belittling?
Yes, absolutely. Because the creator of the heavens and the earth has no needs. He has no needs. He is needless. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Are you a non-Muslim?
I'm a non-Muslim.
Okay, good.
I think when it comes down to religion, that the truth is really subjective, and we can see that here today because we could argue till next week. We'll go back and forth with the Christians and the Muslims, because the truth, the religious truth to me is subjective, right? It's what you want to believe. They want to believe in Jesus. You're going to believe, one God, Allah, and everything. Now, you've said since the lecture started that you've explained what Islam is, but I don't think I understood why should I believe it's the truth. As I said, when it comes down to religion, the truth is subjective. We believe what we want to believe. We go to church, if you grew up in a Christian household, likelihood that you're going to be a Christian is fairly high. You grew up in an Islamic household, likelihood you're going to be a Muslim is fairly high. And it's what you want to believe. We're all here arguing. They want to believe that Jesus and everything. So the question is, and then one last thing. One philosopher said that the mere fact that if the truth can be challenged, or somebody can say this is not the truth, or there are so many truths that there are like a million different truths, it means that none of them are the truth. They all cancel each other out. The truth should not be challenged. The truth cannot be challenged. The truth is the truth, and there's no argument to it. So why is Islam the truth? Because clearly we can see that there are 100 different arguments against Islam. So.
That's it? Thank you. No, I don't mean. We have a
That's a question.
Oh, what was the question?
The question is, why is Islam the truth? As I said, the truth is subjective.
Oh, I thought you were just making a comment.
No, I'm saying, why is Islam the truth? Why should I believe that Islam is the truth?
You should believe Islam is the truth because it is the only way of life that gives respect to the Creator in terms of worship.
And you can assure that 100%?
No doubt in my mind.
Some tribe in the Amazon that may have a religion that you're
doesn't
not
exist.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
I
can prove it. You know how I'm going to prove it? Because you're going to tell me about that religion. I'm going to show you. Then I rest my case.
So ignorance is bliss. Like, if you don't know, that means whatever you know.
And you just mentioned we shouldn't be arguing.
We shouldn't.
Thank you. How can a God that is nothing, that they meant to say has nothing, says there is nothing, has nothing in common with creation, relate to creation at all? No, please. We did not say that Allah, the creator of the heavens and earth, God, has nothing in common. We said he's not comparable to creation. But the Qur'an says, when Allah is speaking, because Allah is the speaker in the Qur'an, to the Prophet Muhammad directly, he said, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ الدَّعْوَةَ الدَّاعِي إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. Allah says in the Qur'an, O Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, When my servants ask you about me, tell them that I am extremely close to them. I answer the supplication of every supplicant when he supplicates me. So let them hear my call and believe in me so that perhaps they will be guided. So he's close to us, but he's not close to us in his essence, in, for lack of better words, his physical being. He's not, because we don't say he has a physical being. I'm using it for lack of words. He's not in this room. Muslims don't believe that he's close, like when I go to the bathroom, he's with me. No, Muslims don't believe that. Yes, there is commonality between us and him. What is that commonality? He's the creator. I'm creation. He's independent. I'm dependent upon him, like everything else. But as for him being the ultimate entity, the supreme being, he is above his creatures, above his throne, in a manner befitting his majesty. As for dwelling among mankind and going inside human beings, inside flowers and animals, Islam rejects this. Islam rejects this. Islam says no. The Lord of the worlds doesn't have that commonality with human beings. He doesn't have that commonality with creation. So we want to make that clear. Yes.
I know you said, like...
Are you a non-Muslim?
No, I'm a non-Muslim.
Yes, okay.
I know you said that you should listen to Muslim brothers, but there's a lot of times I heard from Muslim brothers that there's a saying called Isa Ru Allah. If you were to translate that, that mean definition of that is Jesus is Allah's spirit. So how that in turn correlate to teaching for Christianity relate to Islam? Because I've heard that from many teachings that Isa Ru Allah, which means God, Allah's spirit, Jesus. So how does that? We believe Jesus is Allah's spirit in a way too, because of the Trinity. So how do you describe that from Islamic point of view?
In the Quran, when it mentions that Jesus is Ruhullah, the Spirit of Allah, this is a title that is given to him by the Lord of the worlds himself. It doesn't mean that Allah separated a portion of himself and put it inside Jesus. Number one, because we don't believe that Allah is a spirit. And number two, if we believe that Allah was a spirit and he took a piece of himself and put it inside Jesus, then that means he would now be deficient and incomplete because a part of him is not with him. When it says he's the spirit of Allah, meaning from all the spirits that Allah created at that time, Jesus is the one who had the most honor. Because I have a spirit, he has a spirit, you has a spirit. But he's given the title Ruhullah, the spirit of Allah, because out of all the things that had spirits in his time, he was the highest among mankind of those who had a ruh, a spirit. Not that he's divine.
Can I ask something?
Yes, you already did, so ask me another one.
In mathematical terms, if you have infinite and subtract 10 to infinity, it's still infinity, right? So it's Allah is an infinite. It's an infinite being. So if you were to take something apart of him, it'd still be infinite. You're not taking anything less, you're not devaluing its space. Something that's humanistic value, you could subtract 10 from 20 and you have 10. But something that's infinite, you were to subtract million from infinite, you still have infinite, right? So if you were to take God and you take a piece from God, how can you say that you're taking something out of him when he alone is infinite?
The syllogism that you're trying to come to is easily refuted. That equation or example that you gave still doesn't negate the fact that that being that you're using the word infinite to describe also has other qualities, which is all hearing, all seeing, and divine, with no beginning and no end. Anything that is divine means that it is perfect. And anything that is born of a woman cannot be perfect. That's Islam. If it comes out of the womb of a woman or the womb of a female, whether it's human or animal, then it cannot be perfect. The only one that's perfect is the one that caused it to come out of that womb. That's it. That's Islam.
I wanted to ask about the concept of...
Please forgive me, but non-Muslim, right?
Yes.
And when we say non-Muslim, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a Christian, right? He could be a Buddhist. He could be a Hindu. He could be a Jew, right? Okay. Or atheist, that's right.
I wanted to ask about the concept of jihad or holy war. This is the fundamental basis for what people like Osama bin Laden believe in. This is the way they believe. And what I wanted to ask is, nowadays, people who watch the news from Iraq, there are daily terrorist attacks. And in a lot of these cases, the groups that claim responsibility for these attacks, they claim that they do this in the name of Allah. Now, there are people that would say this is hijacking Islam. This is not indicative of what Islam represents. And of course, people will believe that. And then there are people that will say that people who think like that, this is not Islam, they are the infidels, they are the non-believers. So my question is, the people who commit terrorist attacks against civilians and do it in the name of Islam, are they really un-Islamic? And if you say that they are, I think that there are clerics in other countries like Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, who will say that you are un-Islamic if you don't believe in jihad. So that's my question basically, is that these acts that are being committed, is there any basis for this? Are they Islamic in any sense? And if it is not Islam that inspires them to commit terrorist acts, then what is it?
Are we answering questions like that?
If you want, maybe you can do it one-on-one afterwards, perhaps.
Excuse me? Huh?
It's not exactly the same, but I was just...
But before that, hold it, because we want to respect his question. First of all, there are no Muslim clerics in Saudi Arabia that are going to sanction that. This is the media propaganda. Because I lived in Saudi Arabia and I studied in Saudi Arabia, and there are no mainstream fundamental scholars in Saudi Arabia that's saying that. Those are the people who the media call Salafists, and they are not saying that.
But
right?
my point is this: the Crusades happened thousands of years ago. Jihad is happening today. It's a relevant issue, and it affects the people anywhere where you live. The people in the Middle East have claimed that they're going to bring jihad to here because they feel that they're being invaded upon. So when people make reference to the Crusades, it happened then, but we're living in the year 2005, and jihad, I think, is something to be concerned about. At least as a non-Islamic person, this is what I believe. And would you agree with that?
But what is the point that you're trying to make?
The point I'm trying to make is that...
I mean, are you making the point that you're afraid of me, and maybe in disguise I'm just one of those guys who's going to blow you up?
No, my only...
No, I'm serious. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't believe that. I do not believe that. My only point is the people who try to minimize the importance of Islam that say it's not a relevant thing. Are they correct? Is jihad something to be concerned about?
Jihad in Islam has its place. And the mainstream scholars of Islam, those who are calling the people to the correct understanding of Islam, they say that the Muslims don't have power and strength, and they do not sanction those things that the people call jihad. They say if the scholars don't deem it jihad, then it is the fighting of trials and tribulations and problems and chaos. Yes, because he was waiting.
This is slightly off track and it's not a major question, so if you'll wait if you want.
No, go ahead.
You say that Muhammad is the last prophet. You say that Muhammad is the last
Muhammad.
Muhammad, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. I was just curious how you know that and why you believe that. And also, as a second question, there are obviously lots of translations of the Quran. I'm probably saying that wrong too. But for example, an English translation, reading that, would that help? Because there are obviously misinterpretations and stuff. Like, do you have to learn the actual language to be able to fully appreciate? Or, like, is a translation inadequate?
These are two good questions. We'll try to answer them quickly before the two young ladies' hands fall off from holding them up. Number one, we know that the Prophet Muhammad is the seal of the prophets and the final messenger because Allah says it in the Qur'an. And the Prophet Muhammad himself, that may sound like because he said it, so it makes it true, right? And he himself said that he was the seal of the prophets and the finality of the messengers. Other than that, even those people in his time who were scholars of the Torah amongst the Jews, and even those people during his time who were scholars of the gospel during his time, and even those people who were emperors like Heraclius, who weren't even religious entities, but just read the scriptures in ancient Rome, they themselves bore witness that he was the final messenger and prophet. They bore witness to that. That's number one. And if we know the definition of a prophet, because the definition of a prophet in modern Christianity is one who prophesies and performs miracles. That's the basic definition of a prophet. In Islam, that's not the definition of a prophet. So see, these definitions need to be, we need to clarify the definitions. So because when we use the terminologies, then people will say, well, there are other people who came after him that prophesied, right? So prophet, in Islam, a prophet, the main job of a prophet is not to prophesize. All right. The second question was what?
It was just,
Right.
it was the question about translations.
The translations of the Quran. The problem with translations of the Quran is that the Quran was sent down in the Arabic language. And the Arabic language is a very unique language. It is a language that is very, very, very verbal, and the nuances and colors and shades of meanings in the words are very, very difficult sometimes, even for the best people in the Arabic language to render into another language. The Quran translated into any other language other than Arabic, English or whatever, French, Spanish, patois, whatever, you lose some of the meaning. You lose some of the meaning. As for the best translation, I can safely sit here and tell you that I don't know of a best translation. Because, once again, there's so much that is lost. I'll give you one example, and I ask Allah to help me with this to hope that you can understand. I have 8 minutes left, because it says 10 minutes, but he gave it to me 2 minutes ago. In the very first verse of the Quran, in the very first chapter of the Quran, the very first verse says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. You may find different translations. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe. You may find different translations for this. But when you look at the Arabic, and you look at it from the way the scholars have explained the language based on how the Prophet explained the meanings of the Quran to his disciples or his companions, you'll see that the very first 2 letters connected to the very first word, which they translate as praise, that definite article has a variety of meanings before you even get to the word. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdu. The L, there are about 9 different L's in the Arabic language. One is called Lam al-Ahad. One is called Lam al-Istighraq. There are many, right? This particular one, if we were to translate that verse, give it its just translation, we would have to say now, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen is not just all praises due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. It is all types and forms and fashions of praise and gratitude and thanks is due to the one who is by himself, is not created, but is the creator of everything, is independent, and he is the Lord and the King and the Master of everything other than himself. That would be, if you're talking about over 6,000 verses. Do you know how big that book would be if we had to do that with the other 5,999 some odd verses? So the English translations they have some deficiencies. The better one is called the Noble Qur'an. If your question was leading you towards which one should you get to read, the better one is called the Noble Qur'an. And even that has mistakes in the translations. But it's one of the better ones. The Noble Qur'an, and it's published and distributed by Dar es Salaam Publishers out of New York and also in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I hope that answered your question. Yes.
I just wanted to ask.
Hindu?
Yeah.
Hindu. Yes.
How do you know?
I've been around.
I just wanted to ask that, if you believe that the Creator is the one and only, and if you believe that...
No, we don't believe the Creator is one and only.
Like the Almighty,
No.
that He's...
We believe He's the only one that deserves to be worshipped. We don't believe He's the one and only.
Okay, He deserves to be worshipped, right? And you believe that Islam is the only way of life, right? So how do you justify...
Only correct way of life.
A correct way of life, right?
Yes.
Then how do you justify that if everything in the world is done, or everything in the world comes to being because of the Creator's will, then how do you justify the existence of all the other religions? Be it Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Jainism, whatever, right? Don't you think it's by that's God's will that all these religions exist?
Yes. Yes. In Islam, we have a part of our basic belief is called al-qadr, al-qada wal-qadr, which is preordination or the divine preordination and predetermination and measurement of Allah. We believe, and this is a very technical thing. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. We have two main aspects of what Allah wills. He wills things that He loves, and He wills things that He doesn't love. Everything is by His will, but it doesn't mean just because He willed it that He likes it. That's the answer in short.
But that doesn't mean that every other religion that all the people believe in are just there because God doesn't will them to be.
We believe that there's one path, and any other path that deviates from the path of Jesus, or deviates from the path of Abraham, or Isaac, or the tribes, or anyone else of those prophets and messengers, anything that goes off into that, the human being has his own free will. He's the only creature besides another creature that we call the jinn, which is an unseen creature, right? Like similar to angels. We believe that the human being, as Allah says in the Quran, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْن وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن. We have given to the human being, Allah says in the Quran, a pair of eyes, 2 lips and a tongue, and showed him 2 paths. He has his freedom. He wants to go this way, or he wants to go that way. That's up to him. I think it's about 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left.
Islam, what is the fate of Jews and Mormons, Baha'i, Christian, basically monotheists, as relates to salvation and how they can commune with God?
This is a very good question. In Islam, we believe that every single person of those religions who follow the way of the prophets who came before the Quran will have their reward with their Lord in the next life. They shall not grieve, nor shall they be sad. Everyone who followed Jesus properly before the Quran, when Jesus was commissioned to do His work, and He did it, and He perfected it. We believe that. He did exactly what He was supposed to do, and He said exactly what He was supposed to say, and nothing other than that. Those people, in Arabic, are called Hawariyun. Hawariyun. Those people will have their reward, meaning they will be in paradise. The people who follow Moses from the tribes, they followed him correctly, they will have their reward. As for after the Quran was revealed, anyone who follows a way other than that, they will be in the hellfire forever. Sister Soldier, yes.
First of all, yeah, you're a very articulate person and whatever, but I just...
Don't worry about it. We okay. Come on. We okay. Come on. We okay.
But I just think it's very unnecessary the way you're bashing Christians and the way, like, everything you say, like, you have to bring Christianity in it. Like, is it necessary to spread the word of Islam by bringing Christianity in it? This is not, are you trying to, like, is it necessary? I think that's really unnecessary. And I have a lot of questions and comments to make, but I'll just stop at that. My one question is, though, okay, you said that the Quran was created 1500 years ago.
No, I didn't say that.
Created, but, like, it, right? Like, it came...
No, I didn't say that. I said it was revealed.
1500 years.
Oh, yes.
So before 1500 years ago, suppose I was alive 2000 years ago, what was I supposed to believe in?
You were supposed to believe in the prophet who came before the Prophet Muhammad.
There was no written scriptures?
Yes, absolutely.
How about if I lived in, like, Australia or something?
Yes.
How was I supposed to know?
If the disciples of that prophet reached Melbourne or Adelaide, if they reached that place and you accepted that, then you would have your reward with your Lord, as I told the young man who was sitting behind you. And if you didn't, you would go to hell as a non-follower of that prophet who came 2,000 years ago.
So you guys didn't have no books before then or anything?
I just said yes. Yes, there were prophets who came.
How was I supposed to believe that they're from God?
I don't understand what do you mean, how are you supposed to believe that?
If someone comes to me and say, okay, I'm a prophet, God sent me, believe in me, like, how am I...
Because you would see the continuity of correctness in the scriptures that came before it and the prophets that came before it. Just like we see the continuity of correctness in the Quran with the Prophet Muhammad with what Jesus taught. The first thing that you said, to go back to that, I apologize immensely. And if there's anyone else here, raise your hand, raise your hand, if there's anyone else here that feels that I bashed Christianity, then I apologize to you. Is there anyone here also that?
But it's not only.
No, hold it. I'm asking a question. We're not talking about anyone else who's spoken as a Muslim. I want to know, because I want to apologize to them too. Is there anyone else here that believes that I have bashed Christianity?
Just one slight remark. Earlier, when you mentioned the other religion's holy book, you said holy book with quotation marks.
You know the reason why? You know the reason why? It's because in Islam, we don't believe that the Qur'an is a holy book. We don't call it the Holy Qur'an. It's a misnomer to call the Qur'an the Holy Qur'an. We don't call it that. That's why I said it in quotes. We don't say the holy city Mecca. And we don't say the holy prophet. That's why I did it in quotes, because holiness is only to Allah. So I wasn't bashing the Bible or anyone else or anything else. If that was the case, I would be bashing the Qur'an too. It's just a misconception among Muslims. Listen, it's a misconception even among the Muslims. They say the holy city of Mecca, the holy prophet. That's incorrect. Nothing is holy except Allah. So if there's anyone, I apologize without raising your hand. Without raising your hand, I apologize if I seem to have bashed Christianity. It's not my intention to bash Christianity. Go ahead.
Why is that, I'm around Muslim people. I've been reading a lot of Islam stuff over my lifetime, and it's usually every time I see something, they're always bringing up Christianity. Why?
One of the reasons I think Christianity is brought up is because of what Allah mentions about those who say that they're Christians in the Quran. The majority of the people in the world, I'm American. I come from a society, a country that is Judeo-Christian. Christianity is the religion of my forefathers. It's the religion of my parents, my great-grandparents, as back as far as I know of. All right? Who knows what happened in Africa? I don't know what religion they were in Africa. I'm not into that. All right? But Christianity, the reason why we find Muslims appealing to or directing their comments towards Christianity more than Judaism is because Jews, for the most part, they usually, the relationship that they have with Muslims is not as close as Allah mentions in the Quran. It's not as close as it is to Christians. This is why you find Muslims in many cases, in America, we're talking about, in America, directing their comments or directing their line of questioning or trying to get some dialogue with Christians. It's not to bash them. If I lived in India, it wouldn't be Christianity. I would be talking about Hinduism or Jainism. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So please, once again, forgive me if that's what you felt.
One last question.
Can I bring up one important point?
I think it would be fair to allow someone who hasn't had a chance yet. I think the young man with the glasses here. Are you a Muslim? Okay.
I wanted to ask, in Islam, do you believe that the Jewish high priest wanted Jesus to be crucified for his teaching?
I don't know of any exegesis in the Quran, of the Quran, that says the high priest. We do believe that the Jews of that time, of whom we believe Jesus was, in his ethnicity and genealogy, we believe he was from the tribe, the Banu Israel, the children of Israel. We believe that. We have to believe that as a part of our belief as Muslims. And we do believe that those people called Jews amongst his people wanted to kill him. And we believe that Allah spared him of the crucifixion and someone else was put in his place.
But my question is, why did they want to? Why did they want to?
The reason, we don't really have a lot of time to go into it, but one of the reasons that they say, not the Muslims, but they meaning the people of theology, that Jesus was desired to be killed by the Jews is because that he was claiming that he was the Messiah. Islam is the middle road. Islam accepts him as being the Messiah, but we reject him as being divine. So the Christians, they accept him as being the Messiah, and the Jews didn't accept him as being Messiah, except for a new sect today called Jews for Jesus.
Because he claimed to be the Messiah, that's why they wanted him.
From what I was told. I may be wrong. This is what I was taught. Are there any Christians who would concur?
I concur.
Yes, this is what I was taught.
Well, your definition of Messiah and our definition of Messiah are different, and I think we should clarify.
Yes, our definition of the Messiah is the one who was born of the Immaculate Conception. He's called in Arabic the Masih. The Masih. He's born of the Immaculate Conception, and he is the one who came through this life sinless. Sinless. We believe that. And that he will return. And any Muslim who doesn't believe that he will return, that he will not return, then he has at least a defect in his belief, or he may be an apostate totally. If he disbelieves that Jesus is going to return. To do 3 basic things. Actually 5 things, but 3 basic things. One of those things he's going to do is destroy the crosses, which are symbols that were put up as representations of him and worshiping other than him, or worship other than Allah. Number 2, he's going to kill all the swines. And number 3, he's going to abolish the tax that the Muslims levy on the non-Muslims under the protection in Muslim countries. Those are the 3 main things, called jizya. He's also going to refute and deny the people who made him a god and put him in the Godhead. Yes. And the 5th thing is he's going to fight the Antichrist. And he's going to win.
We're on that side together. I'll give you guys.
Right on. Ask Dawud to give a last word. Dawud, give a last word. Okay, I will. I thank you after thanking Allah. I then thank you. And you see, in Islam, as Muslims, we're very careful. We don't say, I thank Allah and thank you. You see, we say, I thank Allah, then I thank you. Because we don't make any relationship, you see, because He's the divine one. After thanking Allah, I then thank you for allowing me to come here and having this healthy dialogue. I apologize again if I seem to have bashed, or if I bashed Christianity, Judaism, or any other religion. And especially the Bible. Because in Islam, we believe that this is a scripture that came from Allah. So I would not bash that, for sure. I would not bash that. And I would, as a last final comment, I would invite you to investigate. Investigate the belief of the oneness and the uniqueness of that oneness of the all-wise Creator Allah. To read the Qur'an, that translation of the Qur'an. Or read those books that talks about the nature of Allah and the personality of Prophet Muhammad.